Every single offseason, dynasty managers fall for the same trap. A player signs somewhere new, Twitter explodes, YouTubers are saying the next breakout is here, and by week 6, you're going to be selling that player for a third. Free agency does not create breakouts. It creates buying mistakes. And if you don't know what to look for, you're going to be overpaying in the next 30 days. And today we're going to be talking about how free agency is about to create fake dynasty breakouts. My name is Caleb, and welcome to the Dynasty Edge HQ, where we teach you how to think like a GM to help your teams go from rebuilding to contending and winning championships for many years to come. If you want to think differently than your league and you want to help your team explode, subscribe down below. Follow this channel. We talk about all things strategy, helping your teams have the edge in your dynasty leagues so that you can win championships. And today we're talking about free agency and how we can be able to help our teams gain value during this specific time of the year. And first thing I want to talk about is why free agency creates fake value. Free agency changes situations. It does not change talent. Whenever a player signs with a new team, there's an optimism spike. It's like that player is going to be the next best thing because they went to this new team. And people, these reporters will then, blow up that player. There's articles written, there's YouTubers talking about every player tech, 6 players you need to get before free agency hits, and all of these different things, inflating prices of players. And when you can be able to look at it, player agnostic, and look at situations, you can look at offenses, you can see that free agency tells a different story. And if you learn how to take advantage of it, you can gain value in your league. Opportunity headlines move faster than talent evaluation. People are always going to be talking about this opportunity, what this looks like with this player in this system. And what we have to look at is historical hit rates of players, what their production was on their former team, and are they going to take that same production to their new team with the depth chart that they have on that specific team. Most signings are role signings, not franchise shifts. So we have to understand that just because a player is going to this big level team does not always mean that they're going to be this RB1, this wide receiver 1 for their team. So 3 free agency traps that people typically fall into. Number 1, vacated targets fantasy. So people think that when this player leaves, there's 120 targets that's going to be filled by this new player that comes in. And that's just not always the case. Targets are earned. They're not just given away to the next player. So you have to understand that the player that's coming in has to earn those things. They're not just going to be given that opportunity, especially if they weren't a highly drafted player. So you have to understand that vacated production is one of the most misunderstood concepts in Dynasty, that when a certain level of production has left, that doesn't automatically mean that new person is going to fill that. Typically, it goes to the people that are already there. And so when we understand that, we can make better buying decisions and play off of that to other players that are looking to buy that new free agent, big find, that hot take that everybody's after. Trap number 2 is contract blindness. Big contracts don't always mean fantasy usage. There have been plenty of players that have gone into situations with a massive contract and then not done anything with that contract. And so you have to understand that just because somebody signed somewhere does not mean they're going to be used as much as their money is showing. Teams like to be able to use that player, but the new coach might have a different plan. A coaching staff might have a different offense that isn't going to use that player. So understand what the player has done previously and try to project what they might do in that offense. Don't just expect a bad player to go into a good situation and automatically be good. And I think that's something that we get caught up in. But if there is a sentiment in the community, that might be a place to gain some value. Trap number 3 is depth chart illusion. Right after free agency, depth charts look clean. It looks like everything's set. That player signed with that team. They're the number 1 guy. Well, that the draft hasn't happened yet. So they haven't drafted anybody. So what might happen with that draft that happens? Maybe in training camp, there's a battle that happens and maybe the rookie running back's going to take over, or that undrafted free agent all of a sudden is the lead candidate. Don't just look at depth charts after free agency as the end all be all. Have an open mind. Understand that, if I'm buying into a certain player, make sure that's a productive player, not just somebody that isn't a good situation that you think is going to happen. So many times things have happened that way. People bought Clyde Edwards-Helaire when he was a rookie, first-round pick because he went to the Chiefs, and that was supposed to be this massive thing. They didn't have a running back until they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he didn't produce for them. And he was overvalued for years because of that situation. And so you just have to be careful about that with drafting players or players moving to new teams and then not producing. It can just happen that way. And so just to understand that. So what actually, the next part is what actually creates a breakout. When you have talent and you have efficiency and that begins to grow, that's when we start to have a breakout. When there's a second or third year, that's when we see that player starting to break out. We have to understand maybe not just buying after free agency, and sometimes that'll pay off. You'll buy a player that changed teams and it really paid off for you. But chances are you're overpaying for a player before they produce on their new team. Now, of course, if you bought Saquon Barkley as he was traded and got rid of, or as he went to the Philadelphia Eagles, you got a massive player and he produced for you that first year and blew up. That's not always going to happen. Players like Saquon don't normally hit free agency. And so that was why we had the situation there. So keep track of talent, keep track of efficiency, keep track of offenses. One of the, I think the biggest and most underrated thing is the offense that somebody goes to. So understanding how the offense works, how much they run, how much they pass, what kind of quarterback they have will really play into the value and understand that. The player is not just going to be, the new logo doesn't mean that that player has a new lease on life. Understand that there's more things that go into it and just have a little bit more reservation. What smart dynasty managers do during free agency instead of just like panic buying and jumping on the trends and all that kind of stuff, they sell on the hype spike. So a player like Breece Hall right now is like the player that's hitting free agency. Now, while he's not signed to a particular team, you can still play on the thing. Oh, he's going to go to Kansas City. He's going to go to Minnesota. You can play on those things. And his value is getting inflated because of free agency until the Jets tag him and he has to stay there. And so that's what I'm talking about. There's so many like T. Higgins. People valued him so highly, and T. Higgins is a great player. For many years because they thought he was going to hit free agency and go to a different team. But then he signed back with the Bengals, and his ceiling is only as high as Jamar Chase is on the team. And so I just think you have to sell on these players as the hype builds. This is a great time to sell Breece Hall. This is a great time to sell Tyler Algier. This is, a great time to sell on players that have this free agency hype before they hit a situation that you may not love and other managers may not love. And so make sure you understand that. Let other people chase the situation. Let other people chase all of that. That's not your job. Your job is to get the most value for your team and to play that game instead of playing the name game, the logo game, the situation game. You're just going to get in trouble with that. Sell during free agency. It's going to set your team up for the best success. Buy suppressed veterans during the free agency chaos. So players that are on the lower because that are productive because they're not in the news. They're not being put out there. They're just old news. And so buying on players like that can really help set your team up for success rather than buying the shiny new toy that might go to a good situation or might not go to a good situation. And then another way is waiting until after the NFL draft to really commit. So once you know the situation, the draft room, the depth chart, maybe that's when you make your move, but don't make your move before things happen because situations can end up really bad if you're going to go chase. This is not the time to go out and buy Breece Hall. This is not the time to go out and buy, players like Tyler Algier or, Rico Dowdle or all these running backs that are like getting hyped to go to all these situations. This is not the time to go buy them. It's the time to sell them because you're going to get good value for those players because they're being hyped up right now. It is so important to make sure that you are not just jumping on every hype train. If you play this, just like I talked about in the last video with the value cycles, this is a cycle where hype is driving. There's rookie hype right now. There's free agency hype right now. And people make buying mistakes because they jump on a train too fast before they know the whole story. What if Breece Hall goes to the Chiefs? Man, he could explode and have an amazing season. But what if he stays with the Jets? and he keeps having seasons like he does. That could be the story that happens to your team. So sell on these high things. Don't just jump on the hype train. Be steady, but still be willing to make moves if the right situation presents itself. I'm not saying sell for cheap. Sell on the hype and watch your team start to gain in value and get more towards where it's going to go. Now, if you're confused about what direction your team is in, if you don't know if you should be buying, selling, or making this trade or that trade, I actually offer Dynasty roster reviews, and the link is in the description where you can get a roster review. I will go in and I will help you figure out where your team is at, what moves you should be making, and what ways you can be progressing your team to get towards winning championships for years to come. Stop wasting money by just staying stagnant. Make some moves, get a roster review, and I'll help you get towards the championship that you want to win in your league. I appreciate you guys coming in and tuning in. Let me know down below in the comments what stuck out to you in this video, or what way that you could change, you've changed your thinking and could be playing this free agency, and any trades that might be on your mind. Subscribe down below if you want to stick around in this community. I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. I'll see you later.